I think there are three factors that investors are looking at: Trump, Trump, Trump. I think in many ways investors are looking at the year ahead and they're worried about the trade wars to come. They're also worried, as Lin was saying in the intro, they're worried about the political environment here. Prime Minister Ishiba, who's been around since October, his approval ratings are in the mid-20s. That makes Joe Biden in the U.S. look, relatively beloved. And it's not a great scenario when you look at the ways in which Japan needs to raise this economic game. Though, one of the reasons why you've seen foreign funds funnel into Japanese stocks in recent years is the idea that Japan is strengthening its corporate governance, the idea that Japan is reforming the economy. The kind of pullback you've seen from foreign investors in recent months in terms of buying Japanese shares suggests that they're looking around saying, what's next? You put together the Trump risk, you put together the fact that Prime Minister Ishiba might be a short timer at this point. You look at the fact that Trump won't even meet with Ishiba, which is odd. I mean, Prime Minister Ishiba has been desperately trying to get a tea time at Mar-a-Lago. The Trump people have said not yet, and Trump has met with pretty much every world leader you can met at this point, you can mention at this point, except for Japan's prime minister. And I think investors are looking at the year ahead. They're looking at weak leadership in Japan, and they're wondering if this is the best market to be piling into in the months ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe could it be Ishiba's handicap? I'm not sure. Anyway, Lynn, come in on this.
William, I wanted to pick up on, I guess how Ishiba-san will manage that relationship with the president-elect, because some of these brokerages that I was just mentioning earlier that have quite optimistic views on where Japanese stocks will be headed, they think that Japan could be less disadvantaged versus other trading partners of the US because, Japan, for example, is one of the biggest FDI investors into the US, that whilst it is running still that trade surplus, that it has been declining relative to some of these other countries as well. What do you make of that argument?
Well, it's a good argument, but in many ways, we're still not sure which Trump Japan will encounter a few weeks from now. Will we see transactional Trump, where Trump wants to deal with Japan and pull in more investment, or will we see tariff man? And that's the big question. I think one of the concerns that Japan has is that while President-elect Trump is not meeting with Prime Minister Ishiba, he's inviting Xi Jinping of China to his inauguration. I think the Chinese have demurred, but it's a fascinating thing. And I think one of the things that worries Japan is that Trump is linearly focused on China and perhaps not only the tariffs, but maybe trying to engineer some kind of grand bargain trade deal. If so, does that leave Japan and South Korea on the outside looking in? And that's one of the biggest concerns Japan has at the moment. If Prime Minister Ishiba can barely get President-elect Trump on the phone, how does Japan prepare for what's ahead? And I think also the Bank of Japan's decision not to raise interest rates in December may be backfiring to some extent, because if you're a CEO in Japan who's thinking about raising wages, if you're a foreign investor thinking about, is Japan's economy ready to thrive, ready for prime time, why isn't the BOJ raising interest rates a slight bit? Why are interest rates still near zero for 25 years? Why should we trust that the economy will thrive in the year ahead? And so I think there are many questions at the moment, which is why you see investors taking more of a breather on Japan, if you will, waiting to see what happens.